My respectful pranams to revered Atmagyananandji and revered Bhaswatanandji. And of course, I can scarcely hide my joy at being able to be here again with you all. My great good fortune, I consider it to be. So, as you know, Maharaj has said that our discussion is about what is our real nature. So nothing more to discuss because the answer you have already given in the song which you have sung. But still we will discuss it in the light of Swami Vivekananda's wonderful words, as he has described it as only he could. And when we were students, when we first read, we were most attracted by his logical and scientific approach and how he takes us step by step towards understanding of this very important, you can say very important aspect. Actually, the whole spiritual life is nothing but the answer to this question, as we will see. So let us start. I'll be quoting mostly from Swami Vivekananda's one of the lectures in his Gyan Yoga, and of course some words of explanation wherever it may be necessary. So Swami Vivekananda starts from where we are. He wants to take us naturally from the level we are living in. So he says, great is the tenacity with which a human being clings to the senses. Senses means sense organs. Actually, it means sense pleasures. So he says most humans spend their lives in what is called eating, drinking, dressing, and society nonsense. And we seem to be quite happy in the beginning. But he says, however substantial a human being may think the external world in which he lives and moves, there comes a time in the lives of individuals and of races when, sometimes even involuntarily, they ask, is this real? The person who never finds a moment to question the credentials of his senses, whose every moment is perhaps occupied with some sort of enjoyment, even to him, death approaches inevitably. And he also is compelled to ask, is this real? Religion begins with this question and ends with its answer. Even in the remote past, where recorded history cannot help us, in the mysterious light of mythology, back in the dim twilight of civilization, we find the same question was asked. What becomes of this? What is real? And according to our Indian sages, if we want to find what is true, what is our true nature, they say that once you start with yourself, the secret of the whole universe is revealed to you. And one of the most poetical of the Upanishads, the Katha Upanishads, therefore begins with this inquiry. When a man dies, there is a dispute. One party declares that he has gone forever, and the other insists that he is still living. Yeyam prete vichikitsa manushye asti iti. Some say he is still there. Na asti iti chaike. Others say, no. When he has died, he has gone forever. So essentially, what is the question here, which we will discuss? Question is, it boils down to this, that are we just dull, dead matter, or something else which endures even when matter is destroyed, when our body is destroyed. Destroyed means when our body is, again, reverts back to the 5 elements from which it was born. So various answers have been given, and we all know that the whole sphere of metaphysics, philosophy and religion is really filled with answer to this question. So 2 positions remain before us. Swami Vivekananda says. One is to believe with the nihilists that all is nothing, that we know nothing, that we can never know anything, either about the future, the past, or even the present. But for those who believe in God, there is another way. To seek for an explanation, to seek for the real. As the Upanishads say, to discover in the midst of this eternally changing and evanescent world whatever is real. So the question again is, in this body, our bodies, which is an aggregate of molecules and matter, is there anything which is real, which lasts, which does not die along with the body? So this concept has been there, Swamiji says, even in the earliest times. Even in the Rig Vedic times, there is a hymn which is addressed to the god of fire, that, Hindus cremate their bodies. So they are imagining that the god of fire is taking that person away. And they say, carry him, O fire, in your arms, gently. Give him a perfect body, a bright body. Carry him where the fathers live, and where there is no more sorrow, no more death. That is our eternal aspiration. One day will come when all sorrow will be eradicated from our lives and we will have no fear of death or destruction. So, we possess a body, but it can't be denied that we are not just bodies. Even a little rational thinking will tell us, and consciousness within us and self-awareness, they directly point to the presence of something else, presence of a soul. That is everyone's experience. I know, I'm conscious. Even the Charvakas or Materialists, they also admit the existence of consciousness. So this much, even to ordinary people like us, this much is obvious, that definitely we are not just bodies. Definitely there is a combination of a body and a soul, and we realize it each moment of our day because we are consciously living our lives. Now, in order to determine our real nature, we have to find which among them, body and soul, which is real. So this much is obvious, that we cannot be body and we cannot be the soul at the same time. That is not possible. We have to be either one. Either we are the bodies having a soul, or we are souls having bodies. Now only one of them can be real. If the body is real, then it must have created the soul. But if the soul is real, then it must have created the body. Why we say this? Because something unreal cannot create something real. So if we say the soul is unreal, soul cannot create the body. If we say body is unreal, then the body cannot create the soul. Only one of them may be true. If the body is real, then the body creates the soul. If the soul is real, then the soul creates the body. So Swami Vivekananda says, when we have understood this, the question boils down to what? In scientific language, does force create matter, or matter creates force? Because this body is matter, combination of 5 elements. Soul is not matter, it is something beyond. So the question is this: does force create matter? Does the soul create the body? Or it is the other way around? Does the matter create the soul? Means, does the body create the atman? So again I quote him, there is a great discussion going on as to whether the aggregate of materials we call the body is the cause of the manifestation of the force we call the soul, thought, etc., or whether it is thought that manifests this body. Religions of the world, of course, hold that the force is what creates the body and not the reverse. But there are some schools also which hold the opposite. They say that thought, which is the force, is simply the outcome of the adjustment of the various parts of the machine which we call the body. So they say matter is creating force, the body is creating thought. So first we have to see whether this can stand any examination or not. So let us take up this stand. Suppose, let us assume that it is the body which is creating the soul. Matter is creating force. That the soul or mass of thought, or however you may call it, is the outcome of this machine, the outcome of this chemical and physical combination of matter. The body is nothing but that combination of matter. So the materialists say these combinations make up the soul or the mind. And those who believe in this are called the materialists. So they only believe in the concrete world and deny everything beyond. So they also admit the presence of consciousness. Nobody can deny that. But what do they say? They say that consciousness is perceived to exist in this living body composed of the material elements. But it is a quality of this body itself. Consciousness does not create the body. On the other hand, consciousness is a quality of this body. The main thing is the body. Consciousness is just a quality. For example, a red rose. What is the color red? Just a quality of the rose. Rose, if there was no rose, there was no redness. So they say if there was no body, there would be no consciousness. It is just a quality. So the question is asked, okay, you say consciousness is a quality of the body. But we already know that the body is just a combination of material elements. Earth, fire, water, etc. Now we ask, those who believe in religion, we ask, we don't perceive consciousness as any of the elements. Earth, water, fire, etc. We don't perceive consciousness in them. So how can it be that when they combine, they produce consciousness? If four things are there, none of them is conscious. So you say, when these four elements combine, they produce consciousness. But if none of them has consciousness, how can they produce consciousness? He asked the materialists. So materialists will not admit defeat so easily. They give another wonderful example. They say, in India, everybody is familiar with chewing pan, betel nut. Now they say, you have seen pan. Is there anything red in it? There is nothing red in it. No color is red. Either the, what you call, nuts or the leaf. Leaf is green. But when you chew it, your lips turn red. So red was not present in those things anywhere, but it was produced when they combined together. Similarly, they say, yes, consciousness is not present in any of the elements which form the body, but when they combine, it springs out of nowhere. They give another example. They say that the same thing placed under a different condition may develop some qualities which were originally absent in the thing. They give the example that molasses, what is called gur, it is originally a non-intoxicant, but it becomes an intoxicant when it is kept and allowed to ferment. In a similar way, they say that it is possible to think that material elements combined in a particular way gives rise to consciousness. So they say that consciousness is a byproduct of matter. You are the body, and consciousness is just a quality. When you die, body is destroyed. So naturally, if the rose is destroyed, redness cannot stand. So consciousness is also destroyed. That is their view. So Swami Vivekananda says, okay, I have understood what you want to say. But your argument leaves one very important question unanswered. You say the body, when all the elements combine to make up the body, it produces consciousness by magic, somehow or the other. But you have not told us what produces the body in the first place. How is the body produced? What is the body? First we have to see. Body is just a combination of atoms or molecules or whatever. It is a combination. This much is 100% true. Anything we see in the universe, they are combinations. And if there is a combination, there has to be a force behind. Anything which you see here, you can even imagine anything in the universe, you just imagine. It has to be a combination. It cannot be a simple thing. Some combination is there, molecules or whatever you call it. So, if there is a combination, it cannot be, these things cannot combine automatically. There has to be some force behind that. Whenever elements combine, there must be underlying force driving that combination. This is the principle of causality as we know it. So Swami Vivekananda asks these materialists, what force combines the molecules into the body form? It has to be some kind of force. Some force is there which takes up material from the mass of matter around us, forms my body in one way, forms your body in another way, and so on. So what makes these infinite distinctions? So if you admit the existence of the body, you have to admit the existence of the force which combined the body combined the molecules to form a body first. So when you say matter is creating force, you are putting the cart before the horse. If there is a combination of matter which is producing the force, that matter has to spring from some force. So, we don't admit your proposition. It cannot be that there was a matter right at the beginning, combination of matter right at the beginning, and it produced force. No. If there was a combination of matter anywhere, if there was any kind of body anywhere, first, there must have been a force which combined these molecules to form the body. So, your position is not tenable, he says. It is not true that matter produces force. No. It is always force which produces matter. If you say some other force was the combination of that body, then you have to go back again. So at the beginning, there has to be some force. It cannot be denied. So he says, Swami Vivekananda, that theory ought to be taken, which explains most of the facts, if not all, and that too without contradicting other existing theories. Therefore, it is more logical to say that the force which takes up matter and forms the body is the same which manifests that body. To say, therefore, that the thought forces manifested by the body are the outcome of the arrangement of molecules only and have no independent existence has no meaning. It cannot be that consciousness is the quality of the body, not at all. Consciousness or thought is completely independent. Not only that, that force actually produces the body. So, he says, we have to always remember that force cannot evolve out of matter. Now he goes the other way. Swamiji, he says, rather, it is possible to demonstrate that what we call matter doesn't exist at all. Matter is only a certain state of force. Solidity, hardness, or any other state of matter, he says, can be proved to be the result of motion. Increase of vortex motion imparted to fluids gives them the force of solids. A mass of air in vortex motion, as in a tornado, becomes like a solid, and by its impact breaks or cuts through solids. A thread of a spider's web, if it could be moved at almost infinite velocity, he says, would be as strong as an iron chain, spider's web, and would cut through an oak tree. So, when that has happened, how do you distinguish that force under certain conditions has acquired the properties of matter? It would be easier to prove, Swami Vivekananda says, therefore, that what we call matter does not exist. But we cannot prove the other way around, that force does not exist. We cannot prove that force has no existence and is just a product of matter. But we can prove that force can, under circumstances, have the characteristics of matter. So now he asks, this much is proved, there should be no doubt that it is force which is creating this body. You can call it consciousness, you can call it thought power, whatever. Now he delves deeper, having proved that our real nature is that force, whatever it may be. He will examine it. Now he delves deeper. He says, now let us see what is that force which is manifesting itself through the body. This much is obvious to all of us, he says. Whatever that force be, it is taking up particles up, as it were. One by one it is taking particles and manufacturing forms out of them. And this form is the human body. Now, there is no one else which is manipulating bodies for you and me, he says. The force inside us is what is doing it for us. He says, I never saw anybody eat food for me. I have to eat it. I have to assimilate it. And food is being transformed into blood, cells, etc. So who is doing all that? We are doing. It is the force inside which is doing all that. So what is this mysterious force? Now he asks us, what is the mysterious force? What is the force which is now working through us? So he says, we know how in the olden times, in the ancient scriptures, this manifestation of power, sages and saints arrived at this conclusion. Now they began to search. What is that power? They began to go step by step, and Swami Vivekananda will take us step by step. So, in the ancient scriptures, what did they think? This manifestation of power, our saints and sages first thought to be a bright substance, having the form of a body. What do we see when we see movies and all in Ramayana, Mahabharata, that somebody has died and some bright substance is coming out from the body, is it not? That was the original conception, that force is also something like a body. And it is bright, it is luminous. That remained after the body was destroyed, after the body died. So this was the thought that within us there is something which is just like this body, but very subtle. May not be visible to the naked eye, but which is there, and it leaves this body when the body dies and goes to another body. That is the force. Okay. But they did not stop there. As Swami Vivekananda said again and again, our sages were very brave. They took as far as logic could take them. They did not stop anywhere in the middle. So they began to examine this. Can this bright body be that force? They thought. If we say body, as soon as we say body, the idea of a form comes. Whatsoever has form must be the result of combination of particles. We come to the same position. As with the gross body, with the subtle body, we are coming to the same position. As the gross body is a combination of particles, that bright body, that subtle body, if it is a form, it must be the result of combination of particles. So we come to the same place. Then what combined those particles? Some force must have combined those particles also. So this bright body cannot be the ultimate force because it itself is a combination. There is something behind this. If this body requires something which is not the body to manipulate it, if the gross body requires something behind it, which is not a body to manipulate it, then the bright body, the subtle body, also requires something to manipulate it. So, that something which is behind both these bodies and which itself is not a combination must be the actual force. That force is combining both the subtle elements to form the subtle body and the gross elements to form the gross body. And that something was called the Atman. That is the Atman, the real self. And it is the Atman which through the bright body worked on the gross body outside. The bright body is considered as the receptacle of the mind. Mind is subtle. The organs are subtle. This bright body is what? Is the receptacle of all these subtle things. So, but the Atman is even beyond the bright body. The Atman is not the mind. The atman is working the mind. It is the force behind the mind. And through the mind, the atman is working the body. So first, suppose you want to do something, what happens? Thought comes. I am hungry, I want to eat. That thought comes. That thought is not the atman. Atman is the power which is behind that thought. Then we get up and do whatever we want to do. So first the subtle impulse, then the gross impulse. But behind both these, the power, our real self, is that which is not a combination at all. So you have an atman, I have another atman, each one has a separate atman and a separate fine body. And through that we work on the gross external body. From till now, this is the conclusion we have reached. You have one atman, you have one subtle body, you have gross body. I have another atman, I have a separate subtle body, gross body. But the sages could not stop. They had to go further. Questions were then asked about this atman. What is this atman, the soul of man, which is neither the body nor the mind? Discussions followed, speculations were made, various shades of philosophical inquiry came into existence. So the different philosophies seem to agree that this atman, whatever it may be, has neither form nor shape. This much is we have already seen. Because if it has a form, then there must be some other force behind it which created that form. Is it not? So atman has neither form nor shape. So they say that you are saying you have an atman, I have an atman. But what is it which differentiates your atman from my atman? On one hand, you say the atman does not have form. You say the atman cannot have shape. Something which does not have form or shape, what is there to limit it? What is limiting my body? What is making my body different from other bodies? The form. If my body did not have a form, what was it which could differentiate it from other bodies? So they thought, if Atman has neither form nor shape, it has to be everywhere. What is there to limit it? It must be omnipresent. It is always there everywhere. Nothing is there to limit it. The three limitations, Swami Vivekananda says: time, space, causation. He says a revolutionary thing. One sentence. Time begins with the mind. Space also is in the mind. Just one sentence he says in Jnana Yoga. So let us try to just few sentences, just let us try to understand what is this tremendous declaration he makes. The time begins with mind. Space also is in the mind. How? Time is a mental construct. Without a conscious observer, the passage of time may not have any meaning at all. If there is no one to witness the passage of time, then who can say there is something called time? And the great philosopher Immanuel Kant proposed that time and space are forms of human perception rather than external realities. And human experience of time is also subjective. When we are hungry, each moment feels like 1 hour. But when we are eating nice things, one moment we feel that, oh, the ice cream is over, now nothing more to eat. So time is completely subjective. This suggests that time is tied to our mind interpretation. Mind is interpreting. It is not an absolute entity. Similarly, space also is not an objective entity, but rather a framework through which the human mind organizes experiences. Human perception of space is influenced by cognitive processes. For example, optical illusion. We lose all sense of space in optical illusions. It is said that optical illusion can distort spatial awareness. So time and space, if both are actually relative entities which are related to the mind, then causation cannot stand alone without time and space. Causation cannot stand without time. Without time, causation has no meaning at all. What is causation? The law of succession, is it not? One thing happening after another. So the idea of succession, without the idea of succession, there cannot be any causation. For something to be considered a cause, it must precede its effect. First cause, then effect. So if there was no sequence, where would be the law of causation? And without time, there can be no sequence. So if time and space are in the mind, causation also is in the mind. Therefore, these three, time, space and causation, are in the mind. And we have already seen that Atman is beyond the mind. It is a power behind the mind and is formless. So, if these three entities exist only in relation to the mind and the Atman is beyond that, therefore, what is the conclusion? Atman must be beyond time, space and causation. And if it is beyond these things, there is nothing to limit it. It must be infinite. And you say, you have an Atman, I have an Atman. But if the Atman is infinite, there cannot be two infinities. They would both limit each other and they would cease to be infinities. So, now Swamiji says, here comes the highest speculation in our philosophy. The infinite cannot be two. If the soul be infinite, there can be only one soul. So what do we see? Your Atman, my Atman? All these idea of variety, various souls, you having one, I have another. Therefore, these ideas cannot be true. It is impossible. The real man, therefore, what is he? He is one and infinite. And it is the omnipresent Atman. Then what are we? You think we are separate, I am separate, you are separate. They say, scriptures say, this is just the apparent man, not real. The apparent man is only a limitation of the real man. In that sense, the mythologies are true, that the apparent man, however great he may be, it is only a dim reflection of the real man who is beyond. That reality, being beyond cause and effect, not bound by time and space, therefore must always be free. What is there to bind it? What can bind the infinite? He was never bound, could not be bound. The Atman cannot be bound. But we think that we are in bondage. So, the apparent man is this reflection. It is limited by time, space and causation. Therefore, it is bound. It seems to be bound. It appears to be bound, but really it cannot be bound. This is the reality in our souls, this omnipresence, this spiritual nature, this infinity. And since we are all one, there is only one soul, actually there is no question of birth and death. Who will be born where? The soul is already everywhere. So where can it come? From where can it come? Where can it go? In infinite space, there is no up or down, is it not? No motion can be conceived with regarding infinite space. Motion is always relative. If you say something is moving, you have to tell first in relation to what. So, coming and going cannot be said to be of the infinite. It is impossible. Where will it go? So, when people cease to think of the past or future, when they give up the idea of body, because the body comes and goes, body is limited, then only, Swamiji says, they have risen to the true ideal. This body is not the real man, neither is the mind, because the mind also changes. Today we are happy, tomorrow we are sad. It is the atman beyond only which can be real. The body and mind are continually changing. Actually, they are nothing. They are only names of a series of changeful phenomena. Like rivers whose waters are constantly in a state of flux, but they appear to be one unbroken stream. But it is constantly changing every moment. Similarly, he says, every particle in this body is continually changing. No one has the same body for even minutes. It is changing all the time. And yet we think of it as the same body. So with the mind, one moment it is happy, another moment unhappy, one moment strong, another weak. It is an ever-changing whirlpool. So these, the body and mind, cannot be the Atman, which is infinite. Change can only be in the limited. To say that infinite changes is absurd. You can move and I can move as limited bodies. Every particle in this universe is in a state of constant change of flux. But suppose you take the universe as a whole, where can the whole universe go? It is always everywhere. So this infinite unit is unchangeable, immovable, absolute. And that is the real man. Our reality therefore consists in the universal, not in the limited. This, what we are taking as real, the mind and body, this we have to deny that reality, not aggrandize that. You have to, that is the principle of self-denial. When you are practicing self-denial, what are you doing? You are denying the reality of this apparent self. You are not denying your own self. Self-denial is actually taking you to your own self. So, we are only denying what is a delusion. Swamiji says, these are old delusions. However comfortable they may be, to think we are limited beings, constantly changing. No. In reality, you are that universal being, everywhere present. Through everything you work, through every foot you move, through every lip you talk, through every heart you feel. And only one whose life is in the whole universe actually lives, he says. The more we concentrate our lives on limited things, the mind, the body, the faster we go towards death. Living this little life is death, simply death. And that is why the fear of death comes. This fear can only be conquered when we realize that as long as there is one life in this universe, we are also living. When we can say, I am in everything, in everybody, I am in all lives, I am the new universe. This is the state which is the goal of every human being. It is not to be gained. Again and again Swamiji says, it is not something you have to manufacture, not something you have lost. It is already there. If it came and went, it would be of no use. It is already there. But we don't have faith, he says. So he says, have faith in this. Have faith in our saints and sages' words, teachings, our scriptures. Have faith and try to realize that true self of yours. So just to sum up, we had started with debating, are we bodies having souls or souls having bodies? This meant the question, does force create matter or matter create force? And logically, Swami Vivekananda proved to us, not only does force create matter, actually it can be shown that matter is nothing but force only in another form. Then we arrived at the conclusion, this force which is working through us has to be formless. It cannot be a combination of elements. If it was, it would require another force behind it. So it is formless and it is called the atman. Then what is the next step? That which has neither form nor shape has to be omnipresent. This will lead to the conclusion that time, space and causation, since they are all in the mind, the atman has to be beyond the mind and beyond time, space and causation. And the final conclusion, if it is beyond time, space and causation, it must be infinite. The real man, the real human being, therefore, is one and infinite, the omnipresent Atman. To realize this is the goal of a human being. And the way is given. First hear, cogitate, meditate. First hear, convince yourself of this truth. And then Swamiji says, day and night, try to immerse yourself in that one idea. Say to your own minds, I am the Atman. Let it ring day and night in your minds like a song. Even at the point of death, declare, I am the Atman. That is the truth. The infinite strength of the world is yours. Drive out the superstition that has covered your minds. Be brave. Know the truth and practice the truth. And he concludes with that immortal message of his. The goal may be distant, but awake, arise, and stop not till the goal is reached. Om Shanti 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 Hari